Discover 7 incredible secrets to transform your day, touching steps for life-changing inspiration. In a small Midwestern town, Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, fought every day against the currents of despair that flowed through the cracked sidewalks and worn-out buildings. The sun cast long shadows over their neighborhood, a place seemingly forgotten by the world. Each morning, she rose before dawn, the weight of her 2 jobs heavy on her shoulders. But it was the spirited laughter of her daughter, Lily, that sparked a flicker of light in her heart. Despite the struggle, Sarah found joy in the simplest of moments. One day, while walking home from her shift at the diner, she paused outside the abandoned community center, its peeling paint and broken windows whispering stories of lives once lived, laughter shared, and dreams nurtured. "It could be our place," she murmured to herself, imagining the vibrant colors brushing over the faded walls, the joyful sounds of children playing, families gathering. Hope pulsed through her, igniting a passion she hadn't felt in years. The idea consumed her. Could they transform this place, bring it back to life? Gradually, Sarah gathered her neighbors, sharing her vision, her voice shaking with the weight of her dreams. Mr. Thompson, the old World War II veteran with eyes that twinkled like stars, shared his stories of sacrifice and unity, adding depth to her vision. They painted a picture of a future where laughter echoed again, an exhilarating dream of empowerment and hope, but not everyone shared their enthusiasm. Town leaders met her vision with disdain. "It's impractical," they scoffed, dismissing her as a naive dreamer. Their words cut into her like ice, forcing her to confront her insecurities. Doubt crept in, tearing at the fabric of her resolve. Should she step back to preserve friendships, or push forward to challenge the status quo, risking alienation? The stakes soared higher as each conversation with her neighbors turned into a battleground of conflicting ideals and fears. As Sarah stood under the vast canopy of stars with Lily by her side, she felt the enormity of their struggles settle around her like a heavy blanket. Their backyard, surrounded by the remnants of their neighborhood, whispered secrets of forgotten dreams. Under the night sky, they spoke softly of wishes and fears, each word a fragile thread connecting them to a reality fraught with uncertainty. Sarah's heart ached not just for their future, but for all families trapped in a cycle of despair. Just then, a thought struck her hard: what if they could unify, rise above the judgments? What if they could awaken the community's buried hopes? Clarity surged through her, propelling her to confront the town leaders again, ready to challenge the prejudice that bound them. Yet, disaster loomed on the horizon. An unexpected event shook the foundation of their town, threatening to engulf her dreams in chaos. As she stood at the precipice of change, the weight of her community's struggles bore down on her like a storm cloud. Would she have the strength to take the lead when everything seemed on the verge of unraveling? The crossroads lay before her, and Sarah felt the urgency to transform despair into determination for herself and for Lily. Would they reclaim their dreams, or would the shadows swallow them whole? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a fire ignited within her, Sarah prepared to face the storm, ready to rally her dreams and those of her neighbors. The glimmer of hope lay in their shared struggles. Little did she know, their journey was just beginning, and the path ahead would take them places they never imagined. Would she become the beacon of change they so desperately needed? The answer lingered in the air, heavy with possibility, and Sarah stood poised, ready to shape the fate of her community and her daughter's future. The next morning dawned with an intensity that felt almost electric. Sarah could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down, but there was also a flickering excitement in her chest. Today was the day. She had decided to call a meeting, inviting everyone from the neighborhood to gather at the diner after her shift. This could be the moment when everything changed. As she strode down the familiar path to work, the sun bathed her in warmth. Lily was still asleep, dreaming blissful escapes while Sarah fought her own battles in the waking world. The chatter of regulars filled the diner as she pushed open the door, the scent of fresh coffee and pancakes washing over her like a comforting embrace. But today was different. Today, her heart raced not from the early morning rush but from the anticipation of hope. Each person she served felt like a step closer to the community vengeance she envisioned. With every smile and thank you, Sarah collected whispers of encouragement, little charges that fueled her resolve. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, the diner began to fill with familiar faces. Mr. Thompson settled into his favorite booth, his gaze steady and reassuring as he nodded to her. Others trickled in, Mrs. Jenkins, with her bright scarf and warm smile, the Johnsons, who always brought their daughters bustling in with excitement. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly as the room quieted. "I know times are tough, but we have the chance now to change things. I want to bring life back to the community center, and I need your help." She painted a picture of laughter and smiles waking up the dead walls, of families gathering after a long day, of children learning and playing, and the glow of a shared purpose illuminating the town. The room swelled with murmurs of agreement, and she felt buoyed by the energy, the weight of despair lessening for the first time. But then, someone scoffed from the back. "Do you really think we can do that? Look around, Sarah. We don't have the money. We barely scrape by as it is." The voice was familiar, not cruel but steeped in doubt. Sarah's heart sank for a moment. How many times had she felt that same struggle? But this wasn't just her fight. "I know it's hard," she replied, meeting the man's eyes, "but together we can find a way. It's not just about money, it's about us. We've faced these challenges before. Can't we do it again?" The conversation shifted, voices mingling, some fueled by passion while others simmered with fear. But she was firm. "I can't do this alone. But if we stand together, we can create a place that belongs to us. We can reclaim it." The room erupted into conversation. Slowly, the doubt began to dissolve, replaced by threads of camaraderie and rekindled hope. They began to brainstorm, laughter breaking out occasionally as each idea sparked enthusiasm. Ideas bounced between tables, forming a tapestry of community dreams. Yet, as Sarah surveyed the room, she caught sight of countless naysayers, those hidden in the shadows who still resisted, who held fast to fear. Doubts were like weeds, sprouting up rapidly to choke the fragile flowers of hope. Could they truly overcome them? Then silence fell abruptly as Mr. Thompson stood. "If this dream is worth something, if it means anything, I'll lend my time and my stories. The past isn't dead unless we let it be. We are stronger together." Cheers erupted, and Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. Hope surged like flames, building in intensity despite the challenges ahead. As the meeting concluded, everyone stood united, but anxiety twisted in her stomach. Making change was more than dreams, it was a battle against an unseen foe. Would they be able to rise together and spark the transformation they so desperately needed, or would the shadows of doubt continue to linger? Heart racing, she watched as people began to leave with new determination, unaware of the storm that still threatened to brew beyond the horizon. What awaited them next was a reality they could not yet comprehend. Would their newfound unity withstand the trials on the way? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the diner as Sarah tidied up the tables. A whirlwind of emotion still swirled within her, hope mingled with doubt, excitement tempered by fear of the unknown. She could still hear the echoes of animated chatter from the meeting. For the first time in a long while, it felt like they were a community again, but she wasn't naive. Change wouldn't come easy. "Hey, you alright?" Lily's voice pulled her from her thoughts. The teenager had come to help out after school, a slight frown wrinkling her forehead as she studied her mom's face. "Just thinking," Sarah replied, forcing a smile despite the tightness in her chest. She couldn't let her daughter see her struggle. "Big plans for the community." Lily nodded slowly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's exciting. But some people don't really believe it can happen, do they? No, they don't, Sarah admitted, the words heavy on her tongue. But all it takes is a spark that's what I hope tonight will be. As they finished setting the diner for the dinner rush, the familiar faces of regular customers began to fill the seats again. Sarah was grateful for their routine, the laughter, and the comfort of shared meals. Yet a nagging thought lingered: what if the meeting's energy faded? What if unity turned out to be a flame easily extinguished? Just as she served the Johnsons a fresh pot of coffee, the door swung open with a jingle, and in walked Jessica, one of the most vocal skeptics from the meeting. Sarah's heart raced at the sight. She hadn't expected to see her again so soon. "Hey, Sarah," Jessica called, her tone more tentative than before. "I've been thinking about what you said about the community center." "Really? That's great." Sarah beamed, her heart lifting as she wiped her hands on her apron. "I'd love to hear your thoughts." Sitting down at the counter, Jessica hesitated, clearly juggling a conflict. "I want to help, but we really don't have much. Are we even capable of making a difference?" "No one said it would be easy, but every little bit counts," Sarah urged, her resolve sharpening. "Even your voice, your ideas, they matter. Together, we can make a plan to fund it, to appeal to everyone, to get more people involved." Jessica looked up at Sarah, her gaze wavering. "You think so?" "Yes. When you believe in something, you can inspire others. It's about starting somewhere." Sarah could feel the energy dimming, and she needed to rekindle the flame. "Let's meet up again soon. Maybe even get the others who were at the meeting together for brainstorming." A small smile crept onto Jessica's face. "Okay, I'll think about it." The rest of the evening unfolded, challenging Sarah to stay present with hope. She watched a family laugh over milkshakes, a couple holding hands over a shared pie, all while the weight of doubt tried to creep back in. As she served another round of orders, her mind buzzed with ideas and plans, considering the different paths leading to success or failure. By the time they closed up for the night, Sarah felt a sense of purpose wrapping around her like a warm blanket. The diner felt alive with possibilities, and she wasn't ready to let that flame flicker out just yet, but then, out of nowhere, the door swung open once more. This time it was Mr. Thompson, panting slightly, urgency etched across his face. "Sarah. You need to come with me. There's something happening at the old community center. You won't believe it." Her heart fell, and a rush of adrenaline surged through her. What could it possibly be? A spark of dread flickered in her mind as Sarah followed Mr. Thompson out the door, the night cold against her skin. What waited for them at the center would challenge everything she had just begun to build. As they hurried down the street, an anxious thought flitted through her mind: would they stumble into a new opportunity, or would it be a fight for everything they had crafted in a few fleeting hours? And as the dim lights of the old center came into view, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey for hope was just beginning. The wind whipped around Sarah and Mr. Thompson as they raced toward the old community center. The darkened building loomed like a ghost, its windows unlit, a stark contrast to the vibrant conversations just hours before at the diner. Sarah could hear her heart pounding. Each step felt heavy, a mix of fear and determination driving her forward. What could it be? She muttered, glancing at Mr. Thompson, whose face was still reserved, yet his eyes danced with a flicker of excitement. "I overheard some folks talking," he responded, glancing back at her. "There might be a chance to revive this place after all. You need to see it." As they approached the entrance, the creaking door seemed to protest against their intrusion. The stale air greeted them, thick with the scent of dust and memories. The dim light from a single bulb flickered, revealing scattered chairs and remnants of old activities. Sarah's stomach knotted. Was this the space they'd hoped to reclaim, or a graveyard of dreams? Inside, a small group had gathered. Their voices rose in a mix of concern and curiosity. Sarah recognized a few faces, neighbors from the meeting, a couple of school board members, and even some teenagers from the high school. Murmurs stopped when she entered, a wave of silence crashing over the room. Sarah, thank goodness you're here, one of the board members, Mrs. Martinez, stepped forward. We received a notice from the city. They're planning to demolish this building next month if we don't act fast. A gasp echoed around the room. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Demolish? This is our community's heart. The words spilled out before she could contain them. We just started to build something. How can they do this? It's complicated, another voice chimed in from the back. It was Mike, a local contractor who had offered to help with renovations in the past. The city has plans for a new park, and they see this place as an obstacle. But if we unite, if we can present a proposal to use the building as a community space that's right. Mr. Thompson added. We can't let our voices go unheard. This is a setback, but it can also be a rallying point. Let us show them we have a plan. Sarah's heart danced between despair and hope. Could this actually be a chance? We need to gather more support, she urged, her voice steadying. Let's figure out our next steps, brainstorm how we can get the community involved. We can't let them take this away from us without a fight. People nodded, and she could see the flicker of determination igniting in their eyes. Ideas began to flow, and for a moment, the fear waned, replaced by a collective spirit that reminded Sarah of the energy from the diner earlier. They were all in this together, and she could feel the weight of their shared dreams pressing forward. As plans began to formulate, Sarah's mind whirled. They would need funds, more allies, persuasive arguments. But even those thoughts couldn't dull the rush of excitement that surged through her, the hope that they were on the cusp of something bigger than any one of them could imagine. But just as the atmosphere shifted to one of camaraderie and resolve, a loud crash echoed from the back of the building. The group turned, startled. The sound sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. What was that? Lily's voice cut through the tension, her eyes wide. I don't know, Sarah whispered, dread creeping back in. But we should check it out. As they moved toward the noise, the uncertainty in Sarah's heart was overshadowed by a chilling question: what if their fight for hope was about to turn into something far more daunting than they had anticipated? The air hung heavy with anticipation as Sarah led the way toward the back of the community center. Each cautious step felt like a leap into the unknown. The group followed closely behind her, some whispering nervously while others exchanged anxious glances. The building's darkness seemed to pulse, echoing the unease settling in the pit of her stomach. What if it's just something falling? One of the teenagers whispered, though his voice quivered. Or maybe a raccoon? Lily asked, trying to lighten the mood, but her smile faded quickly as they came closer to the source of the noise. As they turned a corner, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The broken light fixture hung precariously from the ceiling like a wounded bird, its glass shards scattered across the floor. But that wasn't the only sight that stopped her in her tracks. In the shadows, a figure appeared, hunched over in the corner. Whoever it was, they were rifling through a pile of old flyers and scrap paper that had accumulated over the years. Just then, the flickering light caught on a lock of curly hair. Annie. Sarah gasped, relief and confusion mixed in her voice as she recognized the girl she'd grown up with. Annie had always been a bit of a misfit but had left town abruptly a year ago after a family crisis. What are you doing here? Annie looked up, startled. I heard there was a meeting. I just came to see, she stammered, her eyes filled with a mixture of hesitance and something more profound. Guilt? Regret? Sarah couldn't tell. The group exchanged glances, murmurs stirring in the air. Annie had always been a talented artist, and the community center held memories of vibrant murals she had painted. Now her presence felt like a reminder of lost potential, a spark that could either reignite dreams or deepen despair. Is it true what they're planning? Annie asked, her voice trembling. Are they really going to tear this place down? Yeah, Mike replied, stepping forward. But we're fighting for it. We need everyone's support. Including yours. Sarah's heart pounded. Annie, we could really use someone like you. If you could help us, maybe share your ideas about the space. I don't know. Annie hesitated, her gaze drifting to the ground. I've been away too long. I don't know if I can just step back in. Please, Sarah urged, moving closer. This place has been a home for all of us. We can't let it slip away. It needs everyone who cares to help bring it back. Annie's eyes flitted around the room. The dusty walls, the forgotten memories, their weight settled on her shoulders. Could she step back into her old life and reclaim that part of herself? Her hesitation was palpable. Just then, the tension snapped when another crash resonated from a nearby storage room, louder and more forceful than before. The lights flickered ominously, and the group jumped back, fear clouding their eyes. Let us go, Sarah said, adrenaline pumping through her. We need to see what that is and stick together. Annie's body stiffened, and she bit her lip. Fear or courage, Sarah couldn't tell. But as they moved toward the noise, Sarah felt the weight of uncertainty in the air, a reminder that their fight was far from over. Because just beyond the door, someone else lurked in the darkness. What awaited them was anyone's guess, but one thing was clear: if they wanted to save their beloved community center, they would have to confront not only the threat of demolition but whatever secrets the night concealed. The door creaked open slowly, the hinges protesting with a haunting groan. As Sarah stepped inside, the chaotic energy in the room rushed to meet her. Her heart raced. The shadows danced, blending with the sounds of shuffling, echoing off the defunct walls. Stay close, she whispered, her voice steady despite the unease creeping in. Annie's breath felt tight as she lingered at the doorway, caught between an old and a new version of herself. Mike nudged her, urging her forward. She caught sight of a figure in the corner, a silhouette beside heaps of boxes. Who is there? Sarah called, stepping into the room with cautious resolve. The figure froze, a dark outline against the dim light flooding in from behind Sarah. A low thud rang out as something slipped from their grasp and fell to the floor. I was just looking for something, the voice trembled, anxiety choking the words. I don't want any trouble. A boy's voice replied, unfamiliar but laced with the same tension they all felt. I just came here to check it out. Sarah's instincts kicked in. Why are you rummaging through the community center? This place isn't yours to mess with. The boy stepped further into the light. He looked familiar, a younger kid from the neighborhood whom Sarah had often seen helplessly hanging around the center. I didn't mean to scare anyone, he said, lowering his eyes, a touch of shame coloring his cheeks. My name's Jake. I just thought if it's closing, maybe I could take something. Something to remember it by. For a moment, the room fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances, the reality of loss sinking in. It wasn't just walls and paint, it was memories, laughter, and life. Annie, remember how you used to host those art classes here? Sarah said, desperate to bring something positive into the conversation. You made it feel like a home. Annie's gaze softened, and for a split second, Sarah saw the flicker of a smile. But it vanished just as quickly as it appeared. I can't just waltz back in here like I own the place, she murmured. I left. I chose to walk away. Don't do this, Sarah urged, feeling the weight of Annie's decision wrap around her heart. We're all lost in our way. But we can't just give up on what this place has meant to us. Jake's eyes widened, wounded by a truth he hadn't wanted to face. I don't want it to end either, but what can we do? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. That very moment felt like a turning point, a choice lay ahead. Could they band together to protect what they loved? Or would fear, regret, and past mistakes keep them divided? Annie took a half step forward, her hesitation evident, but determination flickered in her eyes. Maybe we could do something together. I mean, put on a show, or we could paint. Remind people why this place is vital. Sarah's heart raced, hope coursing through her veins. Yes. We can organize an event, a gathering. Bring the community back. Show them what they lose. The atmosphere in the room shifted like a light breaking through the clouds. But there, beneath the light, shadows still loomed, and an underlying question remained. Would this fragile spark of determination be enough to reignite their fight, or was there an unseen force ready to tear everything apart once more? The door behind them suddenly swung shut with a bang, plunging them into darkness. Something else was in the building. Something that made their mission suddenly feel precarious. Sarah's stomach twisted. What's happening? An echo of a laugh chimed through the dark, sending fingers of chill skirting down her spine. What had they awakened? What secrets still lay hidden in the depths of their beloved community center? They were about to find out, and not everyone would leave without scars. With that, the tension surged, leaving them clutching at hope as they faced the unknown. The darkness engulfed them like a suffocating blanket. Sarah could feel her heart hammering louder, desperate to break free from the panic rising in her throat. The laugh echoed again, chillingly familiar, yet unrecognizable. It wasn't a child's laughter, nor was it one filled with joy. Instead, it had a sinister edge that scraped against her nerves. "Jake, stay behind me," Sarah said, instinctively positioning herself between him and the shadows. Annie shivered, her body rigid as she took a small step backward. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "I don't know," Sarah replied, trying to keep her tone calm. "But we have to stick together." Mike, emboldened by adrenaline, stepped forward. "Hey! Is anyone there? Show yourself." His voice cracked, hinting at the fear pooling inside. Even as he tried to sound tough, the response came as a scuttling noise, something like footsteps dancing across thick wooden floors. Then silence. Sarah felt the need to flee, tugging at her instincts, but she refused to move. This was their home, and she wouldn't let it become a graveyard of memories. "We need a light," Annie suggested, her voice trembling. "There are flashlights in the supply closet," Jake piped up, his eyes wide with fear and excitement. "I saw some the last time I came." "Lead the way," Sarah urged, taking one last glance around their eerie surroundings, caution mingling with fierce hope as they moved deeper into the shadows. Together, they shuffled toward the supply room, the air thick with tension. Each footstep echoed, reminding them of their vulnerability. With broken windows and peeling paint, the community center felt both like a sanctuary and a tomb, housing their laughter but also their fears. As they reached the door of the supply closet, Jake hesitated. "What if it's not just us here?" he whispered, glancing over his shoulder. His hesitation mustered a rush of memories from Sarah's childhood days filled with paint and hope, and she felt a swell of protectiveness rise within her. "Whatever's out there, we'll face it together," she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. Annie pushed open the door, revealing shelves cluttered with art supplies and dusty boxes. Sarah quickly grabbed a flashlight, flicking it on and casting a narrow beam of yellow light into the darkness. The illumination revealed cluttered shelves, but also something that made her freeze. "What's that?" she said, pointing towards the back of the closet. A tattered poster, curling at the edges, depicted the community center's opening day. A smiling crowd, bright balloons, the promise of joy weathered by time. Annie stepped closer, her breath hitching. "We need to remind them," she said, emotion snapping through her like electricity. Just then, the laughter echoed again, louder and closer now. It was no longer a haunting sound, it felt almost mocking. "Who are you trying to deceive?" the voice mocked, a cruel undertone threading through the room. "Just memories and dreams. You think you can revive what's already gone?" "Shut up!" Mike shouted, anger coloring his face. "Maybe it's right," Jake muttered, his face ghostly pale. "What if this place is lost for good?" "No. We can't think that way," Sarah countered fiercely, gripping the flashlight tighter. "We owe it to ourselves and everyone who has ever found solace here. We fight for this place." As the sound of footsteps flickered, a sudden crash echoed from the front of the building. This time the fear rushed through her veins, threatening to overwhelm. "Someone else is here," Annie cried, her voice shaking. "We need to go." Stay focused. Sarah said, her pulse racing. We need to do this together. Let us get the others and confront whatever this is. But a new question began to form in her mind. What if confronting this entity only deepened the darkness? Were they ready to face not only their own fears but whatever shadow lurked in the corners of their beloved community center? With their hearts racing and shadows dancing around them, they felt the tightrope of hope and fear stretched thin. What awaited them in the heart of the darkness? The moment of truth was looming closer than ever. Annie's breath shuddered, a thin veil of panic hanging in the air. The crash had stirred something primal inside them, and the twin urges to flee or fight mingled in a chaotic dance of adrenaline. We can't just stand here, she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah fought against the fear bubbling within her. She cast the flashlight beam across the dusty space, illuminating the forgotten relics of their childhood. The images of laughter and innocence flickered like specters in her mind, but they felt drowned out by that mocking voice echoing in the shadows. We'll confront it, Sarah insisted, determination crystallizing in her voice. Whatever it is, we need to see it. It's time to face our fears. The group exchanged anxious glances. Mike chewed his lip, his earlier bravado slipping like the dust in the corners. Okay, but let us check it out carefully, he warned, catching Sarah's eye. If it's anything like that laughter, we want to stumble in blindly. Stick close, Jake urged, taking a shaky step forward. I'll go first. As they formed a tight-knit line, the flashlight quivered in Sarah's hand, illuminating a path they wouldn't soon forget. The air grew heavier as they moved cautiously toward the source of the crashing sound. Each step sent a ripple of tension, and the whispered shadows around them seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. What are we even looking for? Annie asked, her voice wavering. What if it's a ghost or something worse? Whatever it is, it's tied to us, to this place, Sarah replied, a fierce fire igniting in her gut. We can't let it win. With each step, the hallway stretched out before them like a tunnel leading into the unknown. The walls loomed high, and an unsettling chill brushed against their skin. But when Sarah gasped, the others stopped in unison, eyes wide and breaths hitching in their throats. At the end of the corridor, a flickering light shone through a half-open door. The soft glow pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning them closer, luring them into the depths of the unknown. For a moment, the light felt warm, a beacon of hope, but then the laughter twisted again, darker this time, swirling around them like smoke. Suddenly, Jake blurted out, what if it's our own fears giving it strength? What if we're feeding it? The weight of his words settled around them, like a leaden fog. Were they nurturing the darkness with their own doubt? Sarah felt the flicker of confidence begin to tremble, but she clung to the memory of their shared moments here, the smiles, the dreams, the love. No, Jake, Sarah urged, anger mixing with fear. We want to let darkness win. It's our memories and emotions that hold power. We need to stand united. As they approached the door, the air grew thick enough to taste, and every nerve in Sarah's body tingled with anticipation. She reached for the handle, heart pounding against her chest. Everything she loved hung in the balance. The whispers around them grew louder, promising both dread and revelation, secrets yet to be unearthed. Are you ready? Mike asked, his voice barely above a whisper. No, Annie admitted, but her fear steeled into resolve. But we have to be. The door creaked open, revealing a small room bathed in flickering light, shadows swirling like angry spirits. The edges of the room pulsed with energy, and the mocking laughter shifted to a soft whimper, as if the darkness itself was waiting for their next move. In that moment, they all understood, the shadows were not just around them. They were inside, nestled within the cracks of their own fears and regrets. What would they find? Would they uncover the truth and liberate their past, or would the darkness consume them whole? As they stepped across the threshold, the laughter stopped abruptly, and an ominous silence fell. It was the moment of truth, and suddenly they were not just fighting for the community center, they were fighting for their very souls. What awaited them beyond that threshold? Would they emerge as heroes or victims of the shadows? The room was smaller than any of them expected, cluttered with forgotten furniture draped in dust. Tall piles of old boxes loomed like silent sentinels, and in the middle, a flickering bulb hung low, casting an uncertain light. It felt like stepping into a time capsule filled with their youthful dreams and buried fears. Sarah stepped inside first, holding the flashlight steady as it cascaded across the room and illuminated their shared past: a faded blue couch where they once sprawled out for movies, a broken rocking chair that creaked with untold stories. Each familiar sight sent a rush of nostalgia mixed with trepidation. "Look at all this," Annie murmured, her voice trembling as she stepped closer to the old couch. She ran her fingers over the fabric, eyes watery. "Do you remember the last time we were here?" "Barely," Mike spoke, his tone a mixture of reflection and somber respect. "But it feels like ages ago." "Yeah, before everything changed," Jake added, the shadows reflecting the uncertainty in his eyes. As they explored the space further, Sarah focused on the walls. Pictures hung askew, frozen moments of pure joy. They were snapshots of birthday parties, summer barbecues, and the laughter of friends that once echoed vibrantly through the community center. But there was something else: a dark space that seemed to absorb the light, lurking just beyond the faded memories. "I can't shake this feeling," Sarah said, turning away from the pictures. "It's like they're watching us." Annie gasped as she caught sight of something on a shelf. "What is that?" She pointed. It was a small music box, nestled between two dusty photo albums. Sarah gently picked it up, wiped away the grime, revealing a colorful design that had faded with time. As she opened the lid, a hauntingly familiar melody began to play, echoing softly through the silence. "Isn't that the song we used to sing?" Mike asked, his voice suddenly heavy with emotion. The piece was a joyful tune, yet somehow it felt melancholic now, a reminder of simpler days that drifted just out of reach. But then, as the notes twisted and faded, the shadows surged around them, a deep growl filling the air. Jake stumbled back, his heart racing. What was that? The darkness seemed to pulse, almost alive, as whispers grew louder, surrounding them like a storm. "Do you dare?" they taunted, the voices echoing with malicious intent. "Shut it down. Close the box." Annie shouted, her voice breaking. Panic surged, they needed to regain control. Mike grabbed the music box, but as he did, the whispers turned frenzied, a cacophony of chaos that rattled their very core. "This is just noise," he yelled, trying to drown out the sound. "We have to focus. Listen." Sarah shouted above the clamor, a desperate attempt to draw their attention away from the shadows. "The music, it reminds us of who we are. It was never about just the community center. It's us. Our memories, our bond. We can't forget that." In that moment, the flickering light above them grew brighter, illuminating their faces as the warmth seeped back into the room. The shadows shrank momentarily, retreating from their fierce resolve. But the moment was fragile, a delicate balance on the edge of despair and hope. Together, Jake whispered, eyes gleaming with determination. "We have to face it together." And as they stood side by side, hearts racing, they felt a shift in the air, an awakening. Would they reclaim their past and emerge from this darkness? Or would they be consumed, their laughter lost in the shadows forever? Behind the echoes of despair, the challenge loomed larger than before, and beyond that trembling light, something primal awaited them. What truly lay in wait, shrouded in the darkness? Was it a freedom they desperately sought, or an unforgiving truth that would change everything they knew? The air vibrated with tension as Sarah, Annie, Mike, and Jake stood together, sensing the weight of the shadows pressing in around them. Each heartbeat felt like a battle drum, urging them forward into the unknown. The music box, now cradled in Mike's hands, felt alive, every note a reminder of their shared past, of laughter that had once floated through the corners of the community center. "Together," Sarah urged, her voice steady despite the apprehension swirling in her gut. "Whatever happens next, we lean on each other. We've faced despair. It's time to face this. Her sincerity met with nodded agreement, and the small group formed a united front against the encroaching darkness. With a deep breath, Mike flipped the lid of the music box closed, the haunting melody silencing the swirling whispers momentarily. As the final note faded, the air grew still. It felt like the calm before a storm, and in that collective silence, understanding ignited between them. Their memories, dreams, and identities were intimately woven into the very fabric of this place. Annie stepped closer, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Let us show it we're not afraid." With a shared determination, they activated their courage, letting the warmth of their memories form a shield against the chilling fear. Together, they took a collective breath and stepped deeper into the room, toward the heart of the shadows that a wavering light flickered in the center of flickering like hope. Those shadows felt less like a threat now and more like remnants of their past, intertwined with fear and regret. Sarah held the flashlight high, illuminating the room as tears sprung to her eyes, remembering the wide-eyed children who had once filled these walls, their laughter mingling with joy. Then, a new voice emerged from the darkness, tinged with the familiarity of a long-forgotten tone. "Do you really think you can save it? You don't know what it costs." The words were sharp, wrapped in an echo of mockery, but every soul standing shoulder to shoulder felt the resolve swell within them. This voice wasn't merely taunting them, it was a part of the history they shared, a shadow cast from unhealed wounds. "We choose hope," Sarah shouted, the fire within her radiating outward, merging with the spirit of everyone gathered. "We choose to remember the joy and the love. You're not just a shadow, you're a part of our story. You don't control us." Suddenly, the room exploded with light, and for a moment, visions of the past burst forth. Children sprinting through the halls, families sharing meals, community gatherings filled with an infectious sense of togetherness. The spectral memories danced around them, whispering soft laughter, vibrant against the backdrop of shadows. The darkness shrieked, roiling, thrashing against the brightness flooding the space. "This is our time." Annie joined, voice rising with newfound conviction. "This center belongs to all of us." The shadows frantically writhed, resisting as shards of light pierced through, unraveling their hold. Jake, emboldened by their collective spirit, added, "You're not stronger than our memories. You can't take what's ours." The shadows began to dissolve, gradually but undeniably, like mist in sunlight. Brightness surged, revealing the full splendor of the community space. Paintings, art, laughter, everything rebounded with life over the abandoned walls, colors and echoes becoming vivid once more. And in the heart of the chaos, something sparked a feeling of victory. Every shared moment they had reclaimed was like a lifeline, slowly untangling the knots of despair that had wrapped around them for far too long. They weren't simply fighting for a building, they were fighting for the essence of who they were. As the dust settled, the last remnants of darkness scattered, floating away like dandelion seeds. A peaceful quiet settled around the four of them, the profound weight of the moment taking shape. They had faced the shadows of their fears and emerged on the other side, united, stronger, and more vibrant than ever. The room transformed. The laughter rang out again, echoes of hope and rebirth. This was their sanctuary. This was where they belonged. Hand in hand, they stood tall, each resolute in their commitment to protect what they had fought so hard to reclaim. Sarah turned to her friends, tears glimmering in her eyes but a radiant smile illuminating her face. "We did it. We're going to rebuild this place together. We'll breathe life back into our community." The glow of potential enveloped them as they began to share their ideas, their voices swirled together like colors on a canvas waiting to be painted. They would host events, foster creativity and connection, and build relationships anew, turn the community center into a heart beating again with love and laughter. The days ahead sparkled with possibility. As they stepped out of the center side by side, the weight of despair finally fell away, rekindled with excitement for a brighter future. The community had risen, not just for a place but for one another. All of their dreams were real, and now the journey was poised to begin anew. This was their moment. They wouldn't let it slip away. "Now, it's your turn to act. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories and transformations. Leave a like now to support the algorithm. Every click counts. I want to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments. Comment about how this ending made you feel. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real fans know the power of support, so let us do this together.